Hello and welcome. It's the end of Sunday, 19th day of August, 2018. My name is Derek. This is the Money Charts channel. All risks is within your own risk and reward for all bets and trades alike. Okay. Daily time frame has had several of these days chopping around. Now, a lot of higher lows. As originally when it came down after several down days in a row with this pause up day, bug moving from 80 to 246 on July 30th in like 9 days, bringing it down to like 6,100 and change, and then a little bit after that bringing it down further. But within the point each day a little bit higher, so it was supporting in the area of about 6,200 and, well, 6,000 to 62. And when we look at this on the 3-hour time frame, it still shows that inverted head and shoulders style pattern. And maybe this is this is not just for one weekend, as it's just been doing this or not much of all. But when we count the amount of times that it has had resistance amongst this area, this counts sort of like 2, because you had the original move that came up on the point, then it came down to 18 lows, resisted it again. Then you have a second time, little quick intraday style move, which was followed again. So there's the 4th circle, a 5th one, an extended one in here, and test number 7 of this resistance area. You got this last bottom, which preceding that were these 2, and now the pattern has brought in 2 higher lows along the way. So it's at a case where you've got a major level of resistance. So if you're looking at, if I was to try to find charts, textbook analysis, write topics on situations, this is a spot where when you have a majorly contested resisted area, if you ever get a situation that looks like this, that if you have the price come up noticeably but barely, the lowest you can point out that is noticeably above that line, that creates an interesting point, as this is the early stages of what normally would be a very good rally, one that usually happens fast. Thus you're talking about a leg higher, significantly higher than this, as it really does bring the very interesting setup. And then another way of playing the situation is you see the price come up here, and then you put a buy order in at the neckline, so around 65.75 or 6,600 even area, you'd be putting a buy order in. And within situations like that, you're either going to get in on an early stage of a good leg move higher, or you're going to get hit with that failed breakout. For if it's a failed breakout, that's when I draw the little rectangular looking line, because the price would have a noticeable break and then enter back within its congestion area that it was been having, and of course so obvious where that is in this case. And if it's a failed breakout again and you put a buy order in, say price goes up to 66.88, you put a buy order in for 66.01. Well, if it's a failed breakout, you're going to buy at the bottom end of where the rectangular area would be, and you would most certainly always get hit with a bad purchase amongst that spot. But if it's a real move and it comes back to where it comes from, you would get a little bit better price compared to, say, buying up here. For if it were to say, it doesn't matter how high it goes, it could do that or that, either way. Well, you get a little bit better of a price. Basically making a wager that, okay, it's broken out, it's going to come back to where it came from in a short-term retracement. and then lift higher from that point on. That's just one idea or mechanism within this type of setup. We look at this even more short term, say within the 15-minute time frame. This is where the 18 average is, I find, very, very interesting, because with a lot of these moves, they're going to happen fast, up and down. And the breakout of that level that I talk about, that should bring the price up, well, from 66 to about 7,000 even, it would most likely have a very high chance that that move is going to be of decent sized movements. But after it hits the top, what do we see? We see correctionary move right back down to the 18 lows. Now since then, nothing has changed other than trading amongst such. Makes a move up here to the 18 highs. Then we have a comeback to the 18 lows. Have another move here to the 18 highs. Will it come to the lows now? Maybe. It's still within this type of range, but situations like this, if you see a move of noticeable proportions, point low to point high, that's a noticeable one there. And you see this develop as it does when you start to see momentum breaking out past this 18 average. Then that can give you indication, especially when you get volume coming in, where you'd see noticeably high. We're seeing like no volume on here. I got the volume maybe a little bit low. But if you see some noticeable size moves on that, then that could also be an indicator as well. And among such, if you see weakness along here, how you see weakness with the 18 lows, or you see something like this as the 18 starts to roll over, then you can get notification that that move that happened, which would be this one, would be showing signs of failing. But for now, it looks pretty decent, or I would expect there's a better chance. As I'm recording this, it's I'll be going to bed in another hour, hour and a half. So I'm not expecting much to trade during that time frame. But I wouldn't be surprised if I end up waking up and I see that a decent sized rally comes into place, and I'm going to be making no specific wagers upon such. As I've mentioned within my strategy, I'm just going to have orders in ready to go. And if any takers are ready to sell to me at a price higher than where it is, or they whatever, whether my buyer or seller is set on the down or upside, I'm just going to take each trade and then manage them afterwards. But I do expect that when this downtrend comes to an end, and I think there's a very good chance we're going to see a very good bull market occurring at some point, whether it happens in a day, a week, a month, or a year, that there's going to be magnificent moves along the way. After all, we've had all of these lower highs, but it's also at a stage where it can only hold on to the 6,000 level and continue to make lower highs. I mean, you can do it for so long as you run out of time, basically. And any type of rally comes in here is still making in maybe another shot at a lower high, but any type of weakness that I may happen to see, because overall it's still just correcting itself within a declining 18. So you have a point from high to low, correctionary move. If this ends up being just that, of a correctionary down move, and there's further movement going lower, I wouldn't be surprised that as it breaks all the key short-term support levels, that you have a decent size move that goes towards the downside. Now I'm going to talk about woo-woo kind of stuff. I got to presume that a portion of the people that watching this video also tune into the JSnip4 channel. If not, he's talked about psychics, and I try to understand the psychic medium. I quote unquote believe in the psychic energy. And they've been talking a lot about how it's going to be September when these things all come into play. I hope that's the case. I really, really do, but that's all I can go for on that. I've had situations before where just with some of my friends back in the day when I was barely 20, and one of my friends, she comes up and asks me about her late mother, about just trying to like work on a psychic medium, and I got an image in my head of this lady and this guy who was abusing her, throwing her over her balcony, and down she goes. And I asked her, how did your mom pass away? And she said she committed suicide. And I got a little confused there. That's not what I got in my head. How did she commit suicide? And she jumped out of the window. Okay, so I was thinking that probably she didn't, and that she was probably murdered at that stage. But this is just a situation of the only real psychic envisionment. I mean, I'm not a psychic. Let's put it that way. I know people in this world, and when I have had people that I've known pass away, and then all of a sudden somebody who I know but has no knowledge of this person says stuff that how in the world can she know this type of stuff? There's just no way. Well, I believe in that kind of energy. So if this White Dove, I think this girl's name is, saying how that that's all going to be a lot of big moves, like that will happen, like a lot of and generally speaking, and this isn't what the psychics have been stating, is that when all the markets go up in the times, they do it together. Like last year in the spring, all the cryptos pretty much went up together. Throughout December into January last year, all the cryptocurrencies went up together, and now they've been all going down together. So it wouldn't be a surprise, and I hope it happens soon, and I expect it to happen at some point. It's basically my playbook as far as trading, is that there's going to be fantastic gains. And when Bitcoin gets out of the slump and we start talking about taking out these lower highs, then that's when you start to notice that the movements are going to get really, really big. You could have like maybe from like, well, if it does happen September, maybe September to the end of the year, you have like 4 months, and majority of those are up moves, and you see a lot of altcoins going up against Bitcoin, like 4, 5, 10, 20, 50x, and so on, and even higher than that. I fully expect that to happen. And one reason, the main reason even, for why the moves they have are bigger is people talk about how the volatility, it's because it's a speculative market. And I really don't like that answer. For the answer that I like for the reason why we have this volatility is based on 2 items, and that is the amount of participants that are trading in the game. So the amount of people that trade in Bitcoin today compared to in situations where it becomes a larger adoption, where it becomes more popular, more people are in it, then that reduces the volatility that's going to come into play. But the biggest one is the makers versus the takers. And I don't know how strong the maker-taker ratio is in traditional markets, but given how much financial institutions are playing around and how big it is, I think that they are big makers in the market, which means they're the ones that put the buy orders and sell orders for you to take. There's not enough people in crypto space that are doing such, putting buy and sell orders in, versus those that take them. Because if the ratio of people that take the buys and sells compared to making it is much, much higher, then the volatility will be just as such. One perfect example is one of my favorite altcoins, XBY. This is a very interesting statistic for, I barely own any at all when you consider what the big game players have, or what the or how many there is out there. But the amount of total shares available, or XBYs available, is in circulation well over 400 million right now. Yet there is only 1.8 million XBY available incomplete for purchase amongst the bid asks. So that would work out to well under 1% are right now for sale. 100% of my XBY are for sale. I got buy order or sell orders everywhere. So I'm pretty much one of the largest sell order players in that game. There might only be one person bigger, if there is even that. At least as far as having buy and sell orders in. But that's my strategy as well. But I realize that because if there's, say, ratio of, say, 5 to 1 for takers to makers, compared to, say, 2 to 1 or 1 or 1 to 1, then that would mean with the bigger moves that there'll be bigger moves within this. Because if there's a lot of people taking it and they're bringing the market up or down, meaning they come in major buy and sell buying and selling, that means there's only so many orders available. So in a case like Bitcoin, a big splurge could make it go from 6,500 to like 10,000. Whereas if it was any type of thing like this, a big splurge might make it go from 6,500 to 7,500, because there'd be more liquidity within the markets. And then you talk about all the altcoins. Well, Bitcoin's a lot more popular than all the rest, and then some for that. So all these altcoins that have the 20, 50, 100x gains, a lot of that reason is because of the lower amount of participants in those markets. Again, throwing in the case of how many makers there are versus takers. And I wouldn't be surprised if the ratio is even higher on these smaller codes like library credits or any of these other ones. And it's getting its ass kicked. But a lot of them will just go up in huge, massive proportions because of this particular situation. Thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.